Interface Video, in cooperation with Fairfield Federal, presents Fairfield Today. Brought to you by Fairfield Federal Savings and Loan, Fairfield Medical Center, Fair Hope Hospice and Palliative Care, the Frankie Smith Funeral Home, Fairfield County Adam H., Dagger Law, and the Fairfield County Board of Developmental Disabilities.
Hello friends, and welcome to Fairfield Today. I'm Paul Jasson, your host. Thank you for joining us. As we move here into the late spring and close to the summertime, so many things are happening again now. It's good to see all the events coming back. You know, downtown behind us at the bandstand is full go for the Fairfield Federal Friday night bandstands and everything that happens in Destination Downtown. All the festivals are back. The fair, the Lancaster Festival. It's so good to see everything coming back after a couple years of kind of a rough go there. It's good to see everything coming back. The city of Lancaster has undergone a few changes in recent weeks, maybe a couple months here. Mike Pettit is retiring as the Economic Development Director. We'll have Mike on in a couple weeks. The fire chief, Dave Ward, retired. Steve Maffin has replaced him. And for our purposes here today, the police chief at Lancaster, Adam Pilar, retired. And he had a new chief named after he retired, and that was Chief Nick Snyder. We've got Chief with us today. Chief, thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Pleasure to have you on. You're the top guy at the food chain.
My thoughts are, I hope my head gets screwed on straight here within the next couple weeks. But no, it's great. It's exciting times. Spoke with a lot of the officers, a lot of the administrative group, and we are excited to make a few changes. Not that it was bad. I inherited a really good agency. So we're just excited to kind of get directives and things in there that the officers want.
So you were promoted from an assistant chief's position?
Correct. Deputy chief.
Deputy chief. Okay.
Yes.
So you were in line for this a while. You knew this has been coming, but still, it's I'm sure a bit of a head spinner, as you talked about when you know, before the decisions that were made, you just implemented them. And
sure.
one of the doobies, you did as you were told, like we always do in the food chain. But now, in some respects, as far as police department, you're at the very top. So, just your thoughts about the changes that you've seen.
So our deputy chief of police position traditionally is meant to prep someone for chief of police, and just by retirement alone, I'd love to say skill or something similar to that, but just by retirements and timing alone, I was only able to be in that position for a few months.
Mm-hmm.
So my path was a little bit different than predecessors.
What did you do before you were there?
I was a captain of night shift.
Okay.
So as I came into administration at the beginning of the year, we changed our entire command structure to allow for captains were actually omitted and lieutenants were brought on to the command structure as administrative lieutenants. I was moved to deputy chief, and Chief Pilar was chief for a few months before that changeover took place. So it's been, as I said, very fast. My head has been spinning a little bit, but it's starting to slow down a little bit.
You barely learned the job you're in, and
Correct.
you move, and then you learn it. Now you've moved in. So what's your background here? You're the chief of the Lancaster Police Department now, coming up from the deputy chief position. What's your background as a young man? A local boy?
I grew up in Lancaster. I was born and raised here. Went to college at OU in Athens. I was a Bobcat. Did a stint at Mount Union for 2 years prior to OU. And when I graduated, I immediately worked for the hospital as a buyer in their cardiothoracic department. Decided I didn't like the private sector, and I went to the police department. And since 2005, I've been patrol officer, detective, worked in narcotics.
All your police has been here in Lancaster?
Yes, yeah. A couple stints on task force assignments that were outside of our jurisdiction, but for the most part here.
So as the deputy chief here, you look at the issues going on around town, and just stepping aside from the chief's position now, as you look at that, what kind of shape do you think Lancaster's in?
We're in
from
great
a
shape.
Police chief standpoint?
We're in great shape.
Okay.
Other than maybe internal issues like manpower and staffing, living and working in this community is a very big positive for our members within the community, because we don't deal with many of the major metro issues that, say, other suburbs attached to Columbus were. That's not to say we don't have the crime, definitely not saying that, but just some of the issues that result from being next to such a major metro area,
big city issues.
we don't deal with that.
You don't get a lot of that down here where maybe somebody that's a little more tight to Columbus might get?
Correct. So crime-wise, that's going to happen everywhere. Drug abuse, that's going to happen everywhere. Those are things that you just have to prepare for in law enforcement. You're going to deal with those, and we certainly deal with our fair share. We have shootings, stabbings, homicides, all the like here. The social issues where we are pressured to do things that might be outside of the box of what we're normally doing, or maybe could turn a department into a ineffective agency, we don't deal with a lot of that because we're kind of on an island here in Lancaster. Our city council is very supportive. Our city's very supportive. A lot of the defund the police type movement that occurred there a year, 2 years ago, it didn't quite hit us. That's not to say that we're not accountable or that we're not doing the right things. We certainly are. But sometimes those movements tend to hit the major metro areas and not necessarily us. So we're actually in a very good position.
If you just watch any of the news on now, police are lead off nearly, well, with elections that might change a little bit, but police have been not necessarily always in a good position when you watch the news.
We're a punching bag, that's for sure.
And it's an easy target. It's
Correct.
an easy target because, you guys usually are at a position to see people when it's perhaps not a great time for them, and sometimes that can be misplaced. The anger comes out on you guys, and it's a very tough position to be in. I've grown up here like you. I've been in this town my whole life, except for a couple of short stints away. And I think the feeling here is much different toward our police department, all the management, all the people here, rather than, like you say, the big city. I don't think we have that innate animosity.
Correct.
Well, even in Columbus, I see it a lot in Columbus. They're undergoing a really rough time for the last few years. I just don't see that here. You guys are out. I think everybody likes to talk to the police when they're out on bikes or they're out in cars. I mean, unless it's a bad time, everybody's pretty glad to see you guys.
I would agree. I would say when I am explaining not having to deal with those issues, it certainly is, you want to pay attention, you want to be attentive to where the world's going, and you want to change your policies to reflect that. But if you compare us to a Columbus Police Department, they might have a directive that's founded within a group or an organization that has nothing necessarily to do with law enforcement. Now all of a sudden their entire agency is doing something in another direction. So that's where I'm more speaking from, is we don't tend to deal with people that don't want to learn how our job works. So the mayor, service safety director, city council, community groups, we do a lot of community outreach, a lot of neighborhood block watches. We talk to them, we engage a lot. There's a lot of support all the way around. When you boil it down, though, and my officers are on the calls dealing with crimes, they see that, but we're prepared for that. That's not anything new to us. But as a community, we are supported.
And you mentioned that, and that kind of led me into the next question. I would think that, well, talked with Chief Ward from the fire department over the years and other people, you have almost always had a good working relationship with the administration across the street in City Hall.
Yes.
No matter who the mayor has been, certainly Mayor Scheffler is pro-police and pro-you guys. So I imagine that, and Paul Martin the same way. I imagine it helps immensely, because we see on TV, for example, New York, here's a cop promoted to become the mayor of the city.
Correct.
It may not be going all that well for him right now. So, and he came from that position. But I think here in a town like this, like we've talked about for a little bit, it's different. Everybody seems to have a working relationship that's good.
Yes, I think the main thing is, even if Mayor Scheffler or Paul Martin disagreed with me, or even if they were not supportive of police, which they are, they listen. They're active listeners, and I
probably
think that's
not going to
the
call a
big
press
difference.
conference to
No.
tell everybody how dumb the police department here is. That
Certainly
probably
not.
won't happen.
Certainly not, and those are the issues we
No.
don't deal with.
No.
They are active listeners. They will listen to any type of idea or directive that we have, and typically they support it. They're very good.
One of the, I'm talking with the police chief, Nick Snyder. Chief Snyder recently promoted to that position with the retirement of Chief Adam Pilar. And one of the things for the last few years that I probably heard more of this from Chief Ward at the fire department than perhaps the police department, although police were going through it with staffing. We've had some levies passed, some things have changed. I think fire is getting up to speed now, and that's been an issue for them for a while. How about the police department in terms of numbers of people that you'd like to have versus number of people you do have?
It's an interesting situation. So when I was coming through the ranks years ago, everybody wanted to be a police officer, but the finances weren't quite there for the city. We couldn't get up to the number that we needed to have. I think we had maintained the same number of officers since the 80s, which is crazy. Now we're in a position where this levy has passed and we have the money for the full authorization of officers, which I believe is 73, but we are not finding the candidates that we need to walk through the door. And by that I mean we can't just hire any warm body that walks through the door with a pulse. We have to have a good, honest candidate with good integrity and good instincts, and those are hard to find, and that's our main issue in 2022 is finding people like that to fill the positions.
In talking with, again, Chief Ward in the fire department, and I'll talk to Chief Maffin about it here soon about the same thing, it is, as you indicated, a process. You just can't somebody come in and fill out an application, and as long as they meet some requirements, okay, you can start Monday. Well, that's not the case with you. I'm sure there's or at least there used to be a civil service test. You had to go through some things, a lot of background checking and clearing. How long does it take if somebody would come in to you could actually see them on the force if everything went well?
The general number that I give the public when they ask how long it takes to actually add an officer to the street is about a year if you don't have any certification.
Wow.
And right around
that's
6
from ground
months.
zero.
Yes,
Okay.
that's if you've not been to any type of academy or you've not had any prior service. If you've had prior service or you've been to an academy and you have that certificate, field training plus the background is right around 4 to 6 months. So you're exactly right. If we need an officer today and they walk through our door, it's about 6 months before we see them again in uniform, working for the city of Lancaster, and that's if they have certification.
When you look at the city now, Chief, and you see things and you come up through the ranks, you've seen them, problems probably are the same that existed before you were Chief as now you are Chief. What are some of the things you really pop on your radar a lot, some of the problems that you see around town?
I think the main issue is, I hate to point to specific crimes because there's always ebb and flow there. I think the main issue I've seen is a breakdown of the family structure, and that's been there since 2005. And I'm not even talking about somebody growing up in a single-parent home, because there are plenty of people that grow up in single-parent home with great values and great morals, and we never hear from them. I'm talking about a social breakdown and a social construct of what's right and wrong and respect. And I think that's what we see the most. I think that's the issue in 2022 that we see exponentially getting worse, is there's just breakdowns within family structure, within a community structure, and individuals have become extremely selfish. And there are ways to combat that. I don't know that they begin and end with us. I don't know that we're the appropriate authority to mold that, but we are definitely going to try to do our part, and we have really, really exploded our community outreach programs to try to get in there and help as much as we can.
And I'll just end with this then. I know that when I was a kid, police, you guys are on a pedestal to me. I always looked up for that. And even as an adult, thankfully, I don't have that much contact. I'm pleased with that. But if I was someplace in a car and I got pulled over and he says, put the hands on the wheel, I'm going to put my hands on the wheel. I'm not going to do anything to cause any problems. I mean, I have that, I think, innate respect, and maybe that's what you're saying in a town like this, that's what you see.
Yeah, I think just in general, whether it's related to a crime or a traffic stop or a simple interaction on the street with a police officer, we've seen a real breakdown of just general communication, the ability to communicate well. And it's never about really respect for us or talking to us the right way. It's more about just doing what's right in the moment, because it doesn't necessarily mean that you've done wrong or that you're going to jail, that you're going to be in handcuffs. There's a lot more context to the situation, which is why, sometimes we tend to communicate more strongly than we would other times.
Police Chief Nick Snyder with us, recently promoted to the head job here in the Lancaster Police Department. I think we're in good hands. We appreciate your coming over and joining us today. And we hope over the years we'll always have it's nice to be able to call somebody and say, yep, I can come on. We've always appreciated that, and thanks for coming on today. Wish you the best of luck, and anything you want to promote or get on, we'd be here to help you do that.
I'll be hitting you up.
I appreciate it. Lancaster Police Chief Nick Snyder is with us today, and we'll be back on Fairfield Today.
The Lancaster Festival returns for its 38th season, July 21st through the 30th. This year, we proudly present Rick Springfield on July 23rd and Lady A on July 30th. Reserve seating and general admission tickets are available at lancasterfestival.org, by phone at 740-687-4808, or at the box office located at 117 West Wheeling Street in Lancaster. For the full lineup, visit lancasterfestival.org.
Dagger Law has been part of the Lancaster community for more than 110 years. This is where we live and work. You'll see us at festivals, sporting events, and all around town. We consider our clients as friends, and we walk alongside you through challenging times. Whether you're a growing business, a changing family, facing litigation, planning your future, or dealing with land issues, we're right here. We are local. We are trusted. We are experienced. Dagger Law.
Welcome back to Fairfield Today. Appreciate Police Chief Nick Snyder being on with us. Seemed like a great young man, and we're probably very pleased with the job he'll do at Lancaster. We're glad for that. Appreciate him joining us here on Fairfield Today. We'll change that up a little bit into something that's not very new, but something that's going on for, I believe, 66 years has been the running of the Soapbox Derby. It's just one of the great all-American sports, especially in Ohio, with Akron being the home of the Soapbox Derby. It's just been so part of our thread of being a Buckeye. Everybody knows about the Soapbox Derby, and we're excited to have on with us somebody to talk about our local Soapbox Derby. Have Matthew Mock with us. Matthew, how are you?
Good.
You're the public relations and the PR guy.
The PR guy and assistant derby director.
And assistant derby director for the Lancaster Soapbox Derby, which is June 25th.
Yes.
Coming up very quick.
Yes, it is.
We'll talk about the current race and what's going on there, but when we look back on the past couple of years, everybody has been affected personally and professionally. I'm sure that your Soapbox Derby, 2 years ago, was a no-go?
Yep, no-go in 2020. First time in our history.
Well, and it's everybody was going through that, something that they'd never done before, and you had to call it quits and to shut it down. But now, was last year back full go?
More or less full go.
In 2021.
Yes.
So fast forward to today. 2022 out at Derby Downs, just a couple miles from here, actually, from where we sit today. It's an exciting time. I mean, you're getting geared up for this again. I mean, are you ready?
Are we ever ready? It's a real question.
It comes whether you're ready or not.
Yes,
doesn't
it does.
Yeah. So June 25th, what's the agenda for that day? How does that day look?
So, June 25th, race day. We'll have the drivers come in, get last-minute weigh-ins, get the group picture, driver meeting and stuff, and then we'll start racing about 10 o'clock that morning after National Anthem prayer and all that, just like a normal race day, like NASCAR style or anything. Then we'll start racing about noon, 12:30-ish. We'll go to a quick intermission so everybody can eat, get something to drink. It's going to be hot probably.
We hope.
I then hope to be done racing 3:30, 4 o'clock.
Okay. We have food down at the Downs.
Yes, there's a
food
concession
there.
stand.
Yeah. Now, is there admission to get in
It is
to see the
free
young
admissions.
folks?
It's free.
Well, that's nice.
Yes.
That's nice. So about how many people this year do you anticipate? You probably have the numbers by now because it's so close on June 25th
We
being
have
the
a
day.
rough estimate. We're still getting last minute, very few, but we still have a couple cars available. But the current number, I think, is just over 22.
That sounds like a decent number of
Yeah, because we have to
people
meet
running.
a minimum number. So we have 3 divisions: stock, super stock, and master. So the minimum numbers are 8, 8, and 4. We're over those, barely, but we're over.
Yeah, and that's sent down by
Akron.
Akron, which
Yes.
is the grandfather of everybody up
Yeah.
there. And again, like that's just, if you're in Ohio, Soapbox Derby you just know it's going to happen.
Yeah.
It always does happen. Sure. Now, what are the ages of the young people that compete?
7 to 20.
7 to 20.
And
up
from
to 20.
7 different counties here in Central Ohio.
Is that right?
Yes.
So you're a pretty central Ohio
Yeah,
in
so-
counties that are contiguous to Fairfield.
Yeah, so it's Fairfield, Hocking, Licking, Muskingum, Pickaway, Athens, and Perry counties, what our track covers.
Okay. So if you're going to enter in this race, you have to be from one of those counties?
And there are some leeways. Like, we have one girl this year coming from West Virginia, but the division she in, her local track can't host it because there's not enough drivers. So she has to go to the next closest track, which
That seems fair.
happen to be
That seems
us,
fair.
so she still can race
Does
in that
every,
division.
of the 88 counties in Ohio, are they all connected somehow to some Derby race?
Most of them, yes.
Okay.
Some of them, there's no interest. Some of them they did, then they've stepped back. And
Sounds like Athens County may be about the furthest away because they're actually not touching Fairfield County. You know, they're a county away. So you get some people from Athens that come in for this?
not very many.
Okay.
But we're starting to branch out more. We need to get more involved in the different communities.
Yeah.
Other than just focusing here in Fairfield, we are trying to get out and more stuff.
My guest is Matthew Mock. Matthew is the Public Relations Director and Assistant Soapbox Derby Director for the Lancaster Soapbox Derby, which will be coming up here on June 25th. Be honest real quick. An exciting time. I guess you're kind of back into it now, although you were back into it after last year, but I'm sure you maybe didn't do 100% of everything. So this year it's full go. Everything is up to speed.
Yeah, more or less. I mean, even when we were down, we were still out there busting our butts, getting stuff done, trying to make it beautiful.
Is
for
the track in good shape?
It's in decent shape.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So if you come in, how many races would you run in a day to come out of this thing as a champion? What would be the maximum you'd have to run?
It depends on the field size, but this year's size, you're looking, if you win the winners of the winners and go all the way, you're looking at minimum of 6 races.
6 races.
But you also go down, so that would be 12 times down the track.
Okay.
Because you switch lanes.
Okay.
So your first heat of the day, you'll go in 1, and you have your opponent in 2, and then you'll go back up, switch tires, and go back down the opposite lanes. So it's a fair advantage. Then it's time differential to find out your winner. So they'll advance on
So
that
it's a pretty
way.
complicated process and trying to be fair to everybody and give everybody equal billing.
It depends.
Yeah.
Because not all tracks run it the same way.
Yeah.
You go to the World Championships, you go down one time,
Yeah. And that's your shot.
and that's your shot.
Yeah. So even you may have an off moment at that race, but maybe the next one you make up for it and you'll come out ahead.
I mean, we have some heats that are dead even or just .001, which at our track is 3 pieces of paper, 001.
Now, how do you determine on a real close one, like for example in the Kentucky Derby, you would see a camera right at the end where
We
you
have
would
a
see
laser timer
so it's accurate regardless.
as best as it can.
Sure. Now,
There are some flaws.
Now, if you're a young person and you want it, and again, you've got most of the people already set here. They're all involved here. But is it still where they get the kit and they make their own car? Has that changed any over the years?
Yes, no. To be simple, yes, you can buy kits. The prices have gone up over the course of the years. But we also have a loaner program here at Lancaster. So we have old cars. So new families don't have to spend that initial $800+ on a kit.
That could be prohibitive, I'm sure.
Yeah. So we have cars you can loan to borrow, see if you like it, and then we encourage you, if you continue, to.
So you're able to get that and then try it out
Yeah.
and see if it works.
Yeah.
And maybe next year when you come back, you might want to
Yeah.
get invested all the way. Do you ever have anybody in these loaner cars come out ahead, be the champ?
Oh yeah. Last
Really?
year we had a first-year driver, and she kicked butt. She didn't think she was going to do well, but she won and made it to All-American.
How great is that?
Oh yeah, that was amazing.
So is the way the hierarchy goes? You have how many winners come from here and move on?
So we'll have our 3 local winners,
Okay.
one for each division. Then there's a rally program in Soapbox Derby, which is like NASCAR. And then I think there's only one so far going from Lancaster, but there's years we've sent almost 10 drivers.
So the immediate impact of being one of those champs here is you go to Akron.
Yes.
No.
So the benefit of winning our track, we have our own museum. There's only 2 or 3 museums in the world for Soapbox Derby.
Really?
We were the first.
Nice.
And we have almost all of our champions there. Our 2 world championship cars are there. So it's
Well,
it's
Lancaster's
pretty neat
always
to see.
had a rich history with soapbox derby, and you talked about it. You were a young person. You came through the program here.
I raced 2 or 3 years.
Yeah. So you know it well. Now here it is. It's pretty cool, I guess, to come back and be the assistant director up here. Good for you. Congratulations. So things are Sunday, Saturday, June 25th. First race is at 10.
Round 10.
Round 10. So get out there before that. I'm sure all the participants know that. 20 plus, maybe more coming on this. So it's a pretty exciting time.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Good luck on the weather. That's the only thing. Is it rain or shine or just shine?
If it rains, it's got to be light. If it's too heavy, we'll stop, of course, because those brake pads will.
Yeah,
we've had cars slide through.
I understand that. Anyway, Matthew Mock with us from the Lancaster Soapbox Derby. It's coming up on Saturday, June 25th, out at Derby Downs. Is there an address out there?
3060 BIS Road.
3060 BIS Road. From here, just a couple of miles away, and it's a straight shot. Beautiful area out there. They've really spiffed it up and got it looking nice out there. Going to be a fun day, an exciting time. It always is for a right to go to Akron to compete, and everybody has as good a chance as anybody else at this. Right? Yeah, very good. Matthew Mock with us from the Lancaster Soapbox Derby. Matthew, thank you for joining us. Good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you. We'll be back on Fairfield Today.
Fairfield Medical goes the extra mile to give attention to their patients, to their guests, anybody that comes within those doors.
There's no question that the staff there are all personally invested in seeing that I got the best care possible.
The staff was so comforting. I felt like she was in the best hands.
They basically gave me a second chance at life, and I'm going to make the most of it.
The Frankie Smith Funeral Home and Crematory in Lancaster and the Johnson Smith Funeral Home in Baltimore have a long and wonderful history of serving our community. Feel free to give us a call at 740-653-0652. Stop in and see us at either of our 2 locations, 405 North Columbus Street in Lancaster and 207 South Main Street in Baltimore. Respect for tradition, regard for change.
Welcome back to Fairfield Today. Pleasure having on our other folks today, and it's going to be a good time as we move through this time of the year in Lancaster. I mean, everything is coming back full circle after a couple of years off, like Matt talked about in the Soapbox Derby, things like that. We're back, and it's here now, and so it's a very exciting time. And one of those things that's kind of made a full comeback now is the Lancaster Community Chorus, and we've got the director of that, Clarence McCoy, with us. Clarence, welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
And I noticed that and we've got a poster that Shane will put up there and I'll show you that, being the Lancaster Community Concert. It is the sound of the 60s, as you can imagine. That's what we're going with here. And I noticed that he's worn one of his multi-colored tie-dyed shirts. He has that here.
I have many.
Kind of the theme here that we're talking about from the Lancaster Community Chorus. It'll be a little different, and we'll talk about the clothing here, so we'll discuss that. Okay. But sounds of the 60s, yes. Certainly different.
It is a very, very different concert. We actually did a concert a few years ago that was all music of the 50s, but for that one we did 50s of different eras. So it wasn't all 1950s. We did everything from 1650s. Sure. Yeah. So it was so kind of a clever take on what was going on. This time it's all 1960s. There's so much good music from the 1960s. We really had a rough time even just paring it down to what we could prepare for this concert. Just try to provide variety. But it's going to be a fun concert, feel-good concert for sure.
Well, you talk about the 50s concert. You had a lot of music there to choose from too.
That's true.
1650 if you're going from there, but
not as
from
many,
the 60s. That would be, I think, at the top of the heap where all the songs, to distill it down to a dozen songs or so, that's tough.
It is tough to do, and we basically mostly did just pop songs. There would have been top 40 type pop songs with a couple of show tunes thrown in the mix from a couple of iconic 60s Broadway shows. We could have done, we didn't really do a whole lot of like country music from the 60s and all kinds of different genres because there's just so much that's available. So we'll have to look at future concerts to include some of that stuff. But
if you talk about like genres, 60s music, but then like you say, there's country, there's just all kind of things going
There
on
is,
there'd
there
be
is.
no end to it.
No,
There'd
that's
be
exactly right.
Unless you had about a 5-hour concert, maybe.
Exactly, yes,
I don't
and
know
lots
that-
and lots of hours.
I don't know if you want to direct
no,
that
I'm not sure I
or
want to do that.
practice
Yes,
for that. No, that's it.
exactly.
So it's Sunday, June 19th, Music of the 60s, Sounds of the 60s with the
Yes.
Lancaster Community Chorus. And this is the last
Concert of
last
this,
concert.
of this
That's what I'm
season.
thinking
Yeah.
of. Last
Last
concert of your
this
season from
Yeah.
2021 to 22.
Yes.
This one will end that.
Correct, and we were able to have a full 3-concert season this year,
Yeah,
so we're excited
yeah.
about that, and making plans to do that again next year. So that was good. This was kind of the last one. This one was planned in our previous year that got canceled. The Sounds of the 60s was supposed to end that season, so we got that one here. So this is the end of the ones that we had pre-planned prior to that. So next year we're looking forward to get into some new ideas.
And this one is, as we indicated, pretty much a regular full concert. Each one,
Yes.
I think you've been able to do a little bit more, getting away from the pandemic, the COVID thing.
Sure.
Each one a little bit more people sitting closer together. This one is pretty much back to what the chorus calls
It
normal.
pretty much is, other than we still aren't going to have an intermission this time. So it's going to be just a
Won't
little
be
bit
that
shorter
milling
than usual.
around.
Yeah, there won't
Yeah.
be that. And that was just kind of the way the concert came together. It just didn't. The intermission didn't lend itself very well. The way the concert's going to work is we have a segment of the chorus singing a few songs at the beginning. Then we're going to have a segment in the middle where we feature some of our singers in solos.
Yeah.
Just 3 or 4 of those in the middle, again, bringing some variety to the concert. And then we'll come back and do another segment with the chorus at the end. So it'll be just a little bit longer than our last concert, probably not quite full length yet, which we will get into next year. But it's going to be a fun concert with variety of music. Everything from, like I said, a couple of show tunes. We're doing Rhythm of Life from Sweet Charity, and we're doing Aquarius, Let the Sun Shine In from Hair, both kind of 60s iconic musicals, so we chose stuff from them. Protest song, Blowing in the Wind, again, the kind of thing that you would expect in the 1960s. And then the others tend to be just pop stuff from there. We're doing a Beach Boys tune that Sloop John B, that our men, tenors and
Ryan
basses
Wilson,
are going to do.
big
Yep,
one,
absolutely. The ladies are doing Tell Him, one of the 60s girl groups, the Exciters, sang one with lots of attitude, and that'll be a fun one to have as well. We're doing Never My Love from the Association, Your Love Lifts Me Higher and Higher, Jackie Wilson, Eleanor Rigby, the Beatles, Feeling Groovy, Simon and Garfunkel, and sticking with Simon and Garfunkel, Bridge Over Troubled Water, which we're going to feature soloist Danielle Thompson, phenomenal soprano, singing with us on that. And then that's kind of we're closing with that Aquarius, Let the Sun Shine In. It's going to be that. And then the solos are everything from our piano player for this concert is Emily Plassman, and
That's
she's
a change,
That
right?
is a change. Brenda Graff has been our accompanist for many years,
Yeah.
and she's having some health concerns, so needed some time off. So Emily, who plays also for the Lancaster Men's Chorus
Ooh.
and for First English Lutheran here in town, plays. She is coming to play for us and doing a great job. And she's going to do a performance of Dave Brubeck's Take 5.
Wow.
So something along the jazz vein there. So from the 1960s, and then we're featuring several soloists doing really different things add some more variety to what's going on. So it's going to be a fun concert.
And as you've come back from the pandemic the last year, 2 years, as we've indicated, each concert's been a little bigger, a little more fulfilling to where you used to have it.
Sure.
How about the size of the group? Where it was, say, a couple of years ago, which as I remember we talked, it was maybe in the 90s
It was in
number,
the
I
90s,
think,
yeah.
in that area.
Yes.
Are we back to full go yet?
We are not back to that.
Oh.
Each concert has been a little bit bigger than the one before. We're looking at about 60 singers this time, so about 2/3 of where we were size-wise. But a nice, strong group and a good mix of voices. That's just kind of the way things go. We had a few folks that were coming back this time that hadn't sung yet, and then they saw the numbers for the virus rising a little bit again, and then
Sure.
they chose not
Sure.
to. Numbers are back down a little bit now, but we do have some folks singing this time that haven't sung yet. They're back for this concert.
Okay.
So that's it. We have others because it's vacation season and aren't able to do our summer concerts. That's the way it goes often.
School's out. It's tough to
Yes,
get a lot of
exactly.
people. They're gone.
Yeah, that's right. And I haven't
They're
traveled
gone.
for the last 2 years, so I'm going to travel now. So
Yeah,
that's
this will be the one.
Yeah.
How about ticket availability? Always before it's been from any chorus member, or you've been able to call a number online. How is this working?
All of that is still the case. You can get tickets from any singer in the chorus. You can contact me. I bet they could even get tickets from you if they needed to.
Okay.
So yeah,
I better get
contact Paul Jasson and we'll get him some tickets. You can call 740-503-7357. Again, 503-7357. And if you call them, they can register. They can reserve some tickets for you at the door. And all of that information is available on our website, LancasterCommunityChorus.com, or on our social media. We have both Facebook and Instagram, and our posters on there with that information and information about when the concert is happening.
Have you found that social media has been a big plus?
Absolutely.
For
Yes.
Lancaster Community Chorus?
Yes, it has that in lots of ways. Facebook allows us to put our poster out there and even target the audience that will see it. So there are folks that might be interested in the type of thing that we're doing. So that's a great thing. And then it's real easy for our members we put a post up and they can share it to all their friends and they can see it. So that's as email has become not used as much, social media has become very effective for us in spreading the word for things like this.
Well, and Shane's showing that poster. It's a cool looking poster for that time. And one thing we didn't talk about, always before, your community chorus has always been very dignified, very black pants, very black.
Right.
At one time, actually, some bow ties and some tuxedo looking. And it's been casual the last few years. A black shirt, open at the top, little different
this time.
Sounds of the 60s.
Even less formal. We are going with the look of the 60s as well. We have asked the singers.
That's a lot.
It is. We have asked the singers to come up with an attire for the 1960s, whatever represents the 1960s for them, because there were all kinds of different cultures going on at that time.
Does that scare you?
It does. I have not seen that yet. So we're going to see what happens Sunday when that arrives. It could be anything.
A lot of people were different in the 60s.
I have
were
heard
there.
One singer has even suggested that he might wear the 1960s Batman costume from the TV show.
Man.
So I don't know if that's going to happen. We shall see if that's what
I would
occurs.
love to see that, man.
That's
Bring
right.
your cameras, bring your phones.
Exactly. And, if audience members want to wear something from the 1960s, want to break out their tie-dye, sure. We haven't said anything about that, but if they want to, feel free.
Bring your lighters. You can
there you go.
Or your
sure,
phones. I guess it's your phones
now. Yeah, which is safer. Yeah.
Well, it's Sounds of the 60s. It's coming up June 19th, 3 o'clock out at Crossroads. Tickets available from chorus members. The number again for Joan was?
It's 740-503-7357. And I'm sure there'll be tickets available at the door
they're
as well.
available at the door.
Sure.
The cost is?
It's $10.
$10.
Yeah, and
this is the last one of the series from the 2021-22. Back in November. We have a feel for that one yet?
Actually, we're going to mark in November our 10th anniversary as a chorus. Wow. So we're commissioning a new piece, and we'll be premiering it that day. And so we got some good things happening next season.
Clarence McCoy, director of the Lancaster Community Chorus, this Sunday, June 19th. Sounds of the 60s should be a phenomenal concert.
It's going to be fun.
Have fun.
Yes, indeed.
I'm sure they will, and you will too.
Yes, yeah.
Thank you for joining us at Fairfield today.
Interface Video, in cooperation with Fairfield Federal, presents Fairfield Today. Brought to you by Fairfield Federal Savings and Loan, Fairfield Medical Center, Fair Hope Hospice and Palliative Care, the Frankie Smith Funeral Home, Fairfield County Adam H., Dagger Law, and the Fairfield County Board of Developmental Disabilities.